Indigenous History Part 151, The Sterilization of Indigenous Women. Ah, Canada. Diversity, tolerance, open-mindedness, bringing everybody together so that everyone can share and live together in peace and harmony. Right. If you believe that, then you obviously don't know about the eugenics movement that happened and actually reached legislation in Alberta from 1928 to 1972 and in British Columbia from 1933 to 1972 all the way into the 21st century. Remember when the Canadian Medical Association, one of the things it apologized for was the forced and coerced sterilization. Well, obviously you know what forced is, but coerced, well, that's another thing. In order to push this through, the Canadian Medical Association would often use threats, lack of information, misinformation, and the language barrier in order to get Indigenous women to permit and consent to sterilization. The eugenics movement was a set of beliefs and practices aimed at improving the human population through, wait for it, controlled breeding. Chilling, isn't it? Now, the theory behind the movement was that the presence of ill health and poverty in Indigenous nations was the result of lower racial evolution. It completely ignored the facts that it was colonization and racist government policies that led to the low-level quality of life among Indigenous people. When the Sexual Sterilization Act was in effect, there was a eugenics board appointed, and these many cases were brought forward to their attention, and these many were actually performed. In the early days, Indigenous women represented 8% of this number, and later it skyrocketed and climbed to 25%. The reason? Indigenous women were seen as mentally defective, and so they were never given the chance to say no to that procedure. They would go in for care and then wake up without ever having been able to have kids again. Oh, and it gets worse. Indigenous women from over 52 northern nations underwent the procedure without knowing what was going to happen to them. Why? The health representatives did it without an interpreter, so it was improperly communicated. This has just been part 1. Keep watching for part 2 of this horrific history. And most of all, thank you for hearing my words.